Hi folks, it's Carrie from Tea with Carrie and welcome to my channel. Okay, so I made these note cards here and posted them up in a couple of the groups, and I was asked on how I did it. So this is going to be a tutorial on how I made these note cards. If that's something that you're interested in, stick around. Go make yourself a cup of tea, come and put your feet up, and we'll see you in a second. Welcome back. Okay, so you're going to need a piece of cardboard, and this time I'm not going to use a piece of card that is shaped this way. I'm just going to use a plain ordinary piece of card because this is for a project that I need, so I need it done by. So, and then I have this beautiful napkin image here that I'm going to adhere here, and each of these note cards here were actually paper napkins. They started out as paper napkins and then I turned them into note cards from there, and that's what we're going to do here. So just pick up yourself a pack of paper napkins. You know, you can find a plethora of choices on Amazon, or you can go to the Christmas tree shop. You can find these pretty much anywhere these days. These are, this particular one is a cocktail napkin size. Sometimes I use a lunch size, depending on the image. All right, now these are 3-ply, and I'm not going to split the ply until after I have torn it to the shape that I want it to be. So I'm going to, because then it becomes, the reason for that is because each of these, excuse me, each of the papers, because there's 3 papers that make this up, are very fine. And if you try to tear that just on its own, you'd end up tearing the image too bad. So I want to tear around the image that I want to put down. So, and what that'll do is it'll help it look blended in. Now, if you notice, I'm holding down where I don't want it to tear with my thumb, and I'm just gently pulling it apart with my other hand. So hopefully, not always, but hopefully it will not tear the image where I want it to tear, where I want to keep that image, right? Sometimes, unfortunately, it does tear where you don't want it to tear, but you can always work around it, right? So I'm just going to continue tearing down and around where I need it to be, where I want it to be, let me say. Okay, and I'm going to try and keep the integrity of that wreath shape in place. Okay, so I'm just tearing around here. And you know what, if you end up tearing off some of the image, it's not a big deal. As I said, you can work around it. Okay. Again, holding my thumb to where I want it to tear around. I want to keep that piece of that image there. And it really doesn't take but a minute to do this. Okay. All the way around. Okay. So now I'm left with a very untidy, shabby image, but that's exactly what I'm looking for. So at this point now, I'm going to very, very carefully pry apart the layers of the tissue until I'm left with just that printed layer, because that's all I need. Now, I would suggest that you consider the color of your background to the color of the picture that you want to adhere to it, because this ends up being very, very fine. And if I put that on too dark of a background, it's just going to end up getting lost in it and you're not going to be able to see it. So I think this particular one looks looks good, absolutely perfect. Okay, so setting that aside for a second, I'm going to get my Mod Podge. Now I'm using the gloss Mod Podge. Okay, it's a water-based sealer glue and finish isolate. There you go. Don't think I ever actually read that properly before. Alright, so just a paintbrush, and I'm just going to put the Mod Podge sloppily, you know, all over it. You don't have to be like precious with this, because that's the whole point. I think it makes it very, very shabby, and you know, let's face it, most of us really like that shabby look if we're into the, you know, the junk journaling kind of thing. Okay, so let's put that there for a minute. So now that one coat is on, and I notice I didn't put it all over the edge yet, but I will. Okay, so now I'm going to kind of line this up to where I think is kind of center, or for the little bee anyway. Okay, and now I'm going to gently, from the center out, apply more Mod Podge over the top. Okay, and the reason I'm doing it from the center out is that the tissue paper is delicate, and you're going to tear it if you're not super careful with it. Okay, and then I'm going to then hit the edges all the way around the tissue that I put down first, right, all the way around. Turn it around so I can get the other side. Yeah. Straight tissue there. Making sure that you get those edges too, and just go toward the outer edge of your image, not the other way, because you don't want to accidentally pick up anything that pick up those edges, right? So now that image is well covered. Can you see, I don't know whether the camera is going to allow you to pick it up, but can you see how the tissue didn't lay perfectly and it's created all of this wonderful texture? Love that. Okay, so that was the effect that I'm going for here, and it's part of the reason why I'm using the gloss Mod Podge as opposed to the flat, because I want to have that texture. Okay, so now all I'm going to do now is coat the entire front with the Mod Podge, so that it will all have that same finish to it. You don't have to do this, and if I was doing it on paper I wouldn't do this, but because this is going to be a note card, I want that finish all the way to the edges here. Okay. And the shabbier it is, the better this turns out. Alright. So that's it so far. That's all that's involved in applying that image here. Nothing more complicated than that. Okay, so I'm going to get this dry, and I will be back to show you the rest of the process. Okay, we are nice and dry now, and I hope that you can see the texture. This turned out absolutely fabulous. I love it. All right, so the next step is to take care of the back. Now I know that I have printed images on the back here, but I'm actually going to put on some lined paper on the back, so that, because I don't want these images here. This is a note card, so I want it to be you know, to work as a note card, right? So I have some more of that fabulous lined paper. This I got from Joann's. It was 75 cents. Okay. Now this is something that again is really easy to do. This is the glue that I'm using at the moment. It's Tombow mono liquid glue, because I ran out of my Fabrifix. Can you believe it? I never run out of Fabrifix. However, I did. Alright, so I always find that the best way to get the image that you want covered when you're doing something like this, right, is to glue up the piece before you cut the other paper. It's just easier, and you don't have to you know, line everything up nicely, right? The other way, like cutting out the paper first to the correct size and everything, then you have to line everything up. Now down here there is a really cute little piece here which I want to include, so I'm going to make sure that that's over, that the card gets glued over that piece, right? So, and making sure that the image is up the right way also. So I'm just going to adhere that to the very edge here of that paper. And clearly I'm going to make certain that the edges line up so I'm not missing any paper. Well, that's the plan. Okay. So push that glue out and around, because I don't want the edges to lift at all. So I'm going to put some more glue down in there just to make sure that those edges do not lift. I want them solidly stuck down. And maybe a little bit in there. And around that edge again, I think. Okay. And I pull that again. Okay. So that, I think, is good. All right, so now all I'm going to do is to cut along those edges, and because I can't cut a straight line to save myself, I'm using my tool. Okay, so to load that in there and line that up right there. Okay, and then slice along there. Save that piece for later. And now the same here. Line it up and slice it through. Okay. Yep, and we're golden. All right, so now let's see whether I got that right on the other side, and I did. See, look here, right? Perfect. Okay, so now I'm going to ink it up using the Distressed Oxide Vintage Photo, which is one of my favorites. I use it all the time, but hey, it does what I need it to do. So I'm literally just inking around the front page here, and it really does help to give it dimension, even though I'm going to take it a step further with some watercolor pencils. It just helps. I think it just gives it that extra little bit. Right? All the way around there. And then I'm going to do the same on the back, just to finish it off. Right. It's not quite dry yet, that glue, so I'm just trying to be a little delicate with it in the meantime. Okay, so there we have that. All right, so now before I start with the watercolored pencils, I really just want to take off those corners. I want to round the corners here. I may have to go back in with the ink, so, or maybe not. You know, this thing has not been working right lately. I wonder if no, it's not full. So here we go. Maybe it's user error. Much easier. And do you see just how much difference taking a second to round those corners makes? Like, it just really finishes it, you know? I like that. And this is all about everything in the details. It's all about the details, sorry. Okay, so now I'm going to take my brown watercolored pencils, and these are from Crayola. They were extremely inexpensive for a whole bunch, and they work perfectly for what I needed. I mean, I'm not overly artistic when it comes, I can't draw or anything, so I'm not using them for that, but this is just simply for this kind of work. It works perfect. So now I'm going to go around the edges, and again, as shabby as I can, and I'm going to keep dipping the pencil into the water to give me the effect that I need here, right? And you'll see what a difference it makes from before and after. There, it just gives it loads of definition. Okay. And just going to continue that all the way around the edge. Now notice again, I'm not being too precious with it because I rather like that random look, because it's giving me that shabby chic without even trying, you know? It's giving me the effect so easily. Alright, in around that corner and down here. And there you have it. But do you see how that just makes it really stand out so easily, so quickly? It just finishes it, I think. I like that. So now I'm going to do exactly the same thing to the back, all the way around. Again, just really quickly to finish that off in the same manner. And the end result is just superb, I think. You know, it's well worth those little detailed, the attention to those little details for the finished product here. It is just outstanding, I think. And there you have it. Okay, so, and yeah, I got paint all over me, but that's okay. It's part of the process, right? All right, so now this, I'm going to press this between a couple of books as soon as this the water paint dries, and then it'll dry nice and flat, I'm hoping, right? And then there's your finished product, ready to go into the little pocket. I think it's lovely. Let me know what you think in the comments below. I would love to hear from you. The camera just does not do these justice at all. They turn out so pretty, but the camera just does not pick up the justice of it. Now if you look at this one, you can see again all of that texture that's on there, you know. It's just fabulous. So, and then this one, same thing. Now I actually got all of these napkins from Amazon, and I will link them below too, which, you know, if you wanted to go and have a look at them, it'll make it easier for you. Okay, that's all I have for right now. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll talk to you soon.